What's up, traders? Anthony Crudele here, and in today's video, I'm going to go over the E-mini NASDAQ and E-mini S&P 500 charts. I'm going to talk about why I think both of those markets are set for a decent rally here in the coming sessions. I'll talk about my targets and where I'm wrong, because where I'm wrong is always the most important part of any trade. I'm going to be using Bollinger Bands, 20-period, 3 standard deviations. And so that's what I use for the Bollinger Bands. I'm going to use a 5-day simple moving average. I'm going to use an auto-anchored VWAP. Well, the auto-anchored VWAP, as I just squeeze the chart, is the VWAP starting from the beginning of the year. And an important thing to note is that when you're using futures charts, like today we're going to be using NQ1 exclamation points, the continuation chart for the E-mini NASDAQ, I have my balance adjusted for contract changes is because, as you know, for futures, we roll over. And we are now in the SEP contract. So we go March, June, Sep, Dec. And so you can hit that balance adjust, and it'll adjust for all of the changes, all the rollovers that we have. And I'm also going to use my beacon indicator, which is free. It's open source. And all my beacon indicator is a Fibonacci retracement. If you take it from the top Bollinger Band peak to the bottom Bollinger Band peak, you can see how they're actually going to overlay my beacon levels, which are these red, yellow, and blue dots. And as I move the chart over, you'll see it's 30%, 50%, and 70%. So I'll delete that fib because you don't need to see that. But that's what these levels are. The yellow is the 50% line. And this is the line that's really important right now for targets in the E-mini NASDAQ. 19,464 is where I see the E-mini NASDAQ headed. And I see it headed there because when I look at the markets, I always look at market environment first. Are we in range expansion? Are we in mean reversion? What's primary trend? And then I go from there, right? Primary trend is up. And we previously were in range expansion lower as we were pulling back as the Bollinger Band mouths were open. And then as the Bollinger Band started to come back in, we're now mean reversion back into primary trend. Primary trend is up. You could say what you want. This is still a bull market until we see otherwise. Right? We just hit all-time highs not too long ago. And after this pullback, we're now mean reversion back into that downtrend, but we're back within primary trend. And that's really important because that's when some of the biggest moves will happen, is when we have a pullback where we squeeze out some of the longs. We had an event here talking about the yen and all these different things that were going on. I think there was a lot of factors in this little bit of a squeeze here. Yen was a primary factor. And then you have this reversion back into that down move, but you're back in primary trend. So it can be accelerated. And that's why I think this move is underway. I think we're going to see 19,464 in the NASDAQ futures here in the coming sessions. And I think it could really be relatively quickly here. You know, today was key as we record on August 13th, because I had that auto-anchored VWAP, and I saw this the last couple of days. I'm actually on vacation right now. And I've been watching it just from afar, you know, because I always like to stay a little bit in tune with the markets, and I watch it just from big picture perspective. And I'm like, you know, if it starts to push above there, you could see a squeeze higher. You could see that these recent lows back in here on this auto-anchored VWAP held well. And when we broke it, accelerated lower, some time below it, and accelerated above it. Now you have 18,444. You have the 5-day moving average, which is roughly right around there. And then you have this anchored VWAP at 18,700. So I boxed out this range from 18,700 to 18,440. That's the key area. As long as the NASDAQ has daily closes above this area, I think 19,464 comes. I wouldn't look even as a day trader for any shorts, because I just think we're in this mode right back to it. And, you know, in my homework over the years, this 50% line is a magnet. When we have both the top and bottom Bollinger Bands compressing back inward, it's just a squeeze move right back to the middle. And it's really the middle of volatility. So when you look at things, you know, people will look at fibs on prices. I look at them in terms of volatility on Bollinger Bands. It's a big part of my strategy. And, you know, when we're boxed out in this range right now, as I draw this big square rectangle over those Bollinger Band peaks, and in the middle of this volatility, in the middle of these Bollinger Bands, that's that 50% level. And it's just an important price for me, because it finds our way back to where the extremes could have been. Anytime you see a peak Bollinger Band higher or lower, that's telling you on a 20 period, 3 standard deviation move, that's the extremes, right? Of where we could have went. That's what the Bollinger Bands were predicting, right? And to come back in the middle of that, to me, this is where we'll start to chop and, we'll see what happens. But if it starts to get above there, I think that the move could really get juiced and probably go up to 20,484 if we start to see daily closes above 19,460. And that's just because we're back in primary trend. And as we all know, the markets love to chase higher. And I think that that could be the case now. I mean, we could see, obviously, I think 19,464 is the first place. But if it starts closing above there, 20,400, you do another 1,000 points in the NASDAQ like it's nothing. And we've seen it time and time again. And so it's really cautious fading right now until we see what it does at 19,464. That's the key, as long as we have daily closes above here. Now, the flip side is if we get daily closes back below 18,444, we're back below that VWAP, below the 5-day, below my 30% line, then you could see the possibility of running back down to these lows. Definitely possible. But you got to play it one day at a time, and that's what I see for now. Right now, I think no matter what, NASDAQ is likely headed to that 19,464 area. S&P looks a little different. It actually looks a lot stronger. When you look at the S&P, the anchored VWAP, it's had multiple days back above it. 5-day moving average is pushed back up here. I've had this boxed out area 53.22 to 52.92. I think 5,500 is coming in S&P. I mean, we're almost there already now, but I just don't see any reason to fade this market until it gets up there. And even then, I'd be cautious. You'd want to see some closes below it to even think it could be a fade. And it could be a two-way tape in here a little bit. But above here, you're looking at 56.75. Or it could be, like I said, it could just be a two-way tape in here and it comes back down. We don't know. I mean, easily could see something like this. It comes up in here and then, chops around back down in here and then up. But if it gets up in here, man, I got to tell you, here's the one thing about, fading these rallies like this. When I see, anytime I see a mean reversion back into primary trend. So just think about this. The move lower was the new medium to short-term trend. Now you have mean reversion back into it, but you're back in, as I squeeze the chart, primary trend. And that's the key here. You're back into primary trend. And why that's important is because, especially in bull markets, what happens is that the market chases back into primary trend like no other, right? And so what happens is, just as I said earlier with the NASDAQ, to me, this move is underway. Like we're going to 5,500 probably in the next session. It could be even today by the time I'm done recording. Who knows? I mean, and I just think this area is so important to watch because this is not the type of move where it's like, oh, let's fade this rally back. Like the move lower is done for now. And everyone, I think, tries to pick these tops here. And you just got to kind of just sit back and say, at least in my experience, until we trade 5,500, I just don't fade this move. We got to get back into a lot of volume profile traders, market profile traders, order flow traders will say get back into balance. So this is my way of looking at balance, right? We back in the middle of the volatility. And then we'll see where things start to go. But it's just hard to fade a market that's mean reverting back into primary trend. That's the key. We're back into an up move and everyone chases these rallies. I mean, that's why you see it just a grind up now. Volatility gets sucked out of the market and we just end up drifting higher like we've done for a majority of this year. That this cycle move lower is likely done for now. Now, mind you, that could all change as time goes by. But for now, in the short term, that's what I see. So just wanted to step out and show you guys this. I saw it this morning and the move just continues to grind higher. Wanted to do a quick video on it. Hope all of you are doing great, enjoying your summer. And that's it for this 10-minute technicals. Have a great day, everybody.